Heyo, I'm Toycat, and these are the administrative boundaries of Greater London, and they're going to be relevant to a story about how I had to walk across 6 American cities to get a burger, but first, pay attention to the shape, because you'll notice how it's very roughly a circle, right? I mean, it's not quite, it takes into account local geography and politics, etc., but you'll notice how it roughly correlates with the area of influence in terms of culture, politics, and economics of the City of London, and so as a result, it radiates out from the centre. This is true for most European cities. They're not all exact circles, and some of them are very weird shapes nonetheless, but most cities are roughly a circle. Even Zurich, which is so mountainous, as you can see, it goes in and out a lot more, but it is a large city based around a inner core, which is where this, where the radiation is kind of coming from, where the big, draw is coming from, and where the circle tends to start. However, even though European cities generally follow roughly a circle, obviously American cities don't do the same. First of all, because they love the grid system, and so cities are very, very square, but second of all, because there's always weird tangents, like take a look at Denver. This is a city in Colorado, which clearly was trying to be a pretty nice square, but then they had to build an airport, and no one else wanted to pay for the airport, so they annexed the land for the airport, and then you can't have a disconnected airport, so they annexed the whole highway to get there too. Okay, this is real nice. I mean, you could go to the Gaylord Rookies Resort if you really want to, Oh, that's suddenly just outside of Denver. No, you can't. You're not going to be doing that inside of Denver. But you'll notice how even though they clearly annexed a strip of land to get to the airport, they also have some weird places like Green Valley Ranch, which doesn't look like it should be a part of Denver. Well, there's parts of Denver that are not a part of Denver. So Glendale looks like it really should be a part, while it's not. What is going on with the US where cities can be such weird shapes and this is just a normal thing? I mean, take for example, one of the weirdest examples, Las Vegas, right? This is I've been spending a lot of time in Nevada recently. It is the 7th largest state by land area. You can tell when you look at it. It's a very big state. However, most people know Nevada for one thing, and that is Las Vegas, which has a population of 644,000. So, to put that in perspective, Nevada's population is 3.03 million. That means over a fifth of the population of the state lives in this one city alone, a tiny city in the bottom south of the state. It's pretty crazy when you think of it by itself, but it's even crazier when you check the map and you realize that, Las Vegas as a city is another one of these weird situations where what is going on here? How is it even possible to have a city shaped like this? Did someone plan this, or what went on here? And the answer is very interesting. I mean, it's even weirder when you look at the actual boundaries they went to, because although over here it's obviously people all the way through, the very northwest corner of Las Vegas, it seems like it's just a rectangle which takes a tiny corner of Highway 95. There's no people, there's nothing here that they logically would want, but this is a part of the city of Las Vegas, while there's lots of random holes in the city over here which are not part of it. Why is that true? Because, I mean, things are weird. But today, I wanted to go through the 3 reasons that American cities are so weirdly shaped, and then I also wanted to specifically talk about the Las Vegas Valley, because in case you're curious, this is Las Vegas, but when people are talking about Vegas, they're usually talking about, say, Caesar's Palace, or Flamingo, or the Venetian, or whatever else, these big grand casinos. Wait, here's how I convince you that's what they're talking about. I show you the strip, and you go, oh yeah, that's about right. This is actually not the most glamorous angle. You look at the strip and you go, oh yeah, that's what I'm picturing. All the mega casinos, but these are actually located inside of paradise. In fact, I've been spending a lot of time in Las Vegas, but I spend all of my time in Las Vegas in paradise, except when I'm driving to places, in which case I might go through Spring Valley, or I might go through Winchester, which whole interesting story behind all of these places. But collectively, all of these places, the actual city of Las Vegas, were it to go by European terms, Zurich or London, the actual city of Las Vegas is actually called the Las Vegas Valley, or if you want to be boring, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Statistical Area. And this is it's crazy, because if a fifth of the population lives in just Las Vegas alone, this red marked area, then what percent of the population lives in the Las Vegas Valley? According to this, there's about 2.27 million people there out of 3 million. That's about 75% of the state's population. For real, here is a population map of the state. You can see how there's a big red blob for the Las Vegas Valley, there's a tiny bit for the state capital, a little bit more for Reno, and then basically no one lives anywhere else. I did a road trip across the US, and a lot of that came across Nevada. I can play a fun game with you right now, which is take any one of these, highways, real major road routes, put your Google Maps pin somewhere on it, and I guarantee what it looks like is just road into desert, and then road into desert. There's sometimes a little sign. What does this one say? Oh, it's just black and white. I guess letting you know about this in case you can't see it somehow. Oh, it's got like a little side streets, but you can see it's nothing. There is nothing for huge amounts of distance. It says 130 miles to the next gas station. You are going to the Wild West in some weird sense of that word. And so yeah, I want to talk about the weirdness that is the Las Vegas Valley and all the weird individual cities and towns, because I think that's interesting. But first, why are cities shaped so strangely? There's three major reasons. The first one is because of the fact that America is divided into states. Cities cannot exist across multiple states. You can have metropolitan areas across states, which again is roughly defined by how you say it here, but you can't have a city officially going across state boundaries. So take New York City, for example. You'll see how it extends real far east, because New York extends far east, and south, this whole island, which clearly should be a part of New Jersey, which is a part of New York State. This is all a part of New York, but cities like Hoboken or Jersey City, which are much closer to New York than, I don't know, say Queens or Rockaway Beach. These are not part of New York because they're part of New Jersey. It's a separate state. The two states work very closely together because of this fact, but they're still separate cities. So reason number one is America is divided into 50 states, and anything that hits a boundary is going to cause issues. And funnily enough, this means that there's a great example of Kansas. For example, or actually I think Missouri is the better example. Missouri has two big cities, which are collectively the two biggest cities in Missouri, are collectively in three separate states. As you can see, Kansas City, even though it's more in Missouri than in Kansas, a lot of Kansas City spreads out into the separate Kansas City of Kansas City, Kansas, not to be confused with Kansas City, Missouri, which is, funnily enough, the bigger one. Also has giant holes in, but we'll ignore that for now. Because, Birmingham's got to exist. Why is there a tiny little... See, look at that. There's the village of Birmingham, which exists entirely in Kansas City, which exists entirely outside of Kansas. See? Do you see how confusing this gets quickly? And then the other city, which is in Missouri, is St. Louis, which is also bigger in Missouri, but as you can see, some of this, East St. Louis, they're very creative, exists outside of St. Louis, and also is very weirdly shaped again, but we don't have time to dive into all of these. So that's the first big reason, is because American states exist, and you can't have cities across multiple states. Theoretically, you could sign some form of compact and work together kind of like a city, but American government works like a layer cake. It's federal, then it's state, then it's county. These are the counties of Nevada, and then it's cities. Boom, there you go, now you understand. So what's the second reason, I hear you asking? The second reason is basically politics. Some cities deliberately try to annex areas to increase their reach. Las Vegas famously. So Las Vegas is founded on tourist revenue, right? There's a lot of tourists who come and stay at the big casinos. And so Las Vegas really, really would like to expand and take this area of paradise. Paradise, by the way, even though it's a separate town and city, and even though I've been staying in Paradise, this is one of those facts you're not going to believe if I say it. So the Paradise, even though it exists as its own place, it does not actually have its own addresses. If you want to go to Sam's Club, you'll notice how the address says Las Vegas, even though it's distinctly in Paradise. This is because Paradise is an unincorporated town, even though it's a census-designated place, even though it's got a population of 191,000. It's bigger than the town I grew up in by a lot. It's not a real place. In fact, all of the zip codes serving Paradise are just assigned the place name of Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Las Vegas in terms of people's opinion. This is Las Vegas in terms of the tourism. It's Las Vegas in terms of the postcode, just not in terms of the taxes and the laws which Las Vegas would otherwise be enforcing. So Las Vegas cannot enforce their laws because it's a separate state. They can't collect their taxes, and so Caesar's Palace and the billions that flow into each of these casinos every year goes basically out of the control of the major cities. Wow, isn't that nice? Isn't that wonderful? So that's the second reason, is that cities themselves want to grow and they want to expand. And the third reason, which I didn't know, and I've been looking into property in the US just for curiosity, it's a fun game to do. But here's something I didn't know until recently. You can annex yourself into a city. So obviously, explaining why Indianapolis looks this way. Please don't be a normal looking city. Oh, there's not even boundaries. So explaining why Muncie looks this way. That's definitely how you say that. Yeah, this is pretty close to a normal looking city. It's got a hole there, but good job, Muncie. That's definitely how you say it. Trust me. I kind of know American place names. Kind of the American expert over here. That's sarcasm if you don't know. Okay, so Hurricane, Utah. It's very strangely shaped, right? It's still not a great example. St. George might be the best one. There we go. It's very strangely shaped because of the fact that people, whether their whole streets or individual houses, can choose to annex themselves. I was learning about this while just looking into some unrelated stuff, and so these people in a city of 13,000 and are contemplating annexing themselves into the city. They want to be able to vote for the people in the city, and they don't want to have to pay for their trash pickup, etc., because the amount they pay on that is about as much as they pay in taxes. So their idea is, what if we annex ourselves? We're considering annexing our property into the city, but would like to weigh the pros and cons. And as you look into it more and more, you find there are whole sites of people who are so anti-annexation, and there are whole sites of people who are like, yes, please annex our city. And you realize that cities don't just grow because they want to. They don't just grow because of the lines that they have, but they grow because people want to be a part of a city, or they don't want to be a part of a city. And so, yeah, Las Vegas is a very weird shape because a lot of people opted out. Like, for real, this street right here, I wonder what this officially is. It's going to say Las Vegas on the postcode, but like this is not a part of Las Vegas. What does that functionally mean for them? Do they that also, you know, I don't understand at all. I really don't. There's so much going on with the weirdities of this, and I'd love to dive. If you're from Las Vegas, by the way, please let me know if you know like the weird minutiae of that. Actually, also, if you're from Las Vegas anyway, because I'm spending some time in Paradise, send me an email, ibx2cat@gmail.com. With just, I like hearing from people who live in places about like, what are the things that you think are like, yeah, this is a thing that people from those foreign lands haven't heard of, and I'd like for you to know about it. Tell me about all the casinos that exist. But no, if you live in the Las Vegas Valley, the Metropolitan area. By the way, just as a fun fact, because I kind of mentioned that, like, well, Las Vegas, I didn't mention it actually, but Las Vegas is only the 26th biggest city in the US, but it's kind of unfair to call it the 26th biggest city because it doesn't include all of Las Vegas. But a fun fact I learned, to have a fun correction for myself, even though Las Vegas is the 26th most populous city, and even though the Las Vegas Valley is like, it's 2.2 million people, so it's like 4 times as big. Because metropolitan areas, because this is such a common situation, it actually means that it's according to Wikipedia, you know, you're going to trust them. According to Wikipedia, it's the 27th most popular metropolitan statistical area, after New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, etc. And so that's really interesting to me that it's actually basically the same size, whether you go by metropolitan area or not. But this is the real area we're counting, so it's about the size of Sacramento or Portland, and much bigger than all these places. And anyway, long story short, we got to stay on some form of point here. So Las Vegas is a very interesting place because the city of Las Vegas looks like this, and then there is a separate city called North Las Vegas. Again, very much same annexed place, interesting stuff, etc. Then there is the city of Henderson. So Henderson is where, as best I can tell, it's like the suburb city for Las Vegas. So if you know someone who grew up in Las Vegas, they probably grew up in Henderson. Fact check me on that. There's no way that's going wrong. But then every other city, I guess Boulder City is technically also a city, but like it's way out there. It's kind of leaving Las Vegas. Same with Mesquite. It's in Clark County, but you're kind of leaving. You're kind of leaving away Las Vegas by that point. Every other city besides Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and Henderson, and then those other weird places, is not actually a city at all. So Paradise, unincorporated town. Winchester, unincorporated town. Very strangely shaped one too, by the way. Fun fact, these places were so hastily put together as unincorporated towns, it was literally called Town A and Town B. Wait, let's show you that right here. There we go. Town A of Paradise included areas that lay within the Las Vegas School District, and Town B included areas within the Paradise School. You know, whatever. Town A and Town B, you get the point. That's how lazy they were when they first made these places. But there's also Enterprise. Enterprise is over here. Apparently not owned by the car people. And then here's a crazy one, Spring Valley, which is, if you look at the population area, you can see roughly where it goes. But if you look at Spring Valley, this whole place right here, this is a unincorporated town that genuinely did not exist before 1980. I had such a hard time believing that. I was like, well, you know, let's dive into this more. But apparently it's true. And even crazier, like, it's weird to look at like population statistics and be like, in 1980, no one lived there. The population was 0. There was no city, and now there's a whole, I guess not city, unincorporated town. But then here's the other interesting thing. So when you live in an American city that's like this, I mean, it's true for even the most well put together cities. If you live in New York, you don't identify to other New Yorkers as saying, we're all from New York, buddy. You're like, oh yeah, there's those Staten Island Yanks, I don't know. And then there's people from Queens. We don't like those people from Queens. Or the people from Brooklyn. I hate them too. People from, don't get me started on the Bronxers though, or the Manhattanites. Ooh, those rich. And then, you know, you get that, like you define yourself as the area of the city that you're in. And so, an interesting thing is that obviously in Las Vegas, it kind of works the same way. You define, are you living in Las Vegas? Are you living in North Las Vegas, etc.? But the weirdest thing is there's a lot of neighborhoods that aren't, and like that have the same equal designation as like say Paradise or North Las Vegas, that just aren't cities in their own right at all. So for instance, you could live in Whitney. Actually, I think Whitney's another incorporated town. What a weirdly shaped one, by the way. But you can live in, for example, West Las, because even though North Las Vegas is a city, West Las Vegas, just a part of regular Vegas. It's kind of strange, right? A little bit strange if you ask me. But what about, for example, Summerlin? Summerlin is this big planned community where very rich people live, as best I can tell. It's not that expensive, but it's a rich person place as best I can tell anyway. And wow, what's that? Summerlin is a master plan community in the Las Vegas Valley, and officially, it's just a part of Las Vegas, the city. So there's this very weird thing where there's just a collection of cities, places that are distinctly not cities, and then sub-regions of cities that are distinctly cities, but act like they're their own thing outside of it. And it all makes no sense together, but, you know, like Centennial Hills. This includes all of the parts of Las Vegas, and the parts which aren't part of the city, but it's all just a part of that same city. And, you know, things get confusing real quick. So, yeah, this ends my segment on Las Vegas. Again, if you live in southern Nevada, which statistically, if you live in Nevada, that's the part you live in, tell me about what's going on. I know you live in a tourist place, so this is all the time. But, like, for your good pal, Toy Cat, your good parasocial friend on the internet, let me know. Speaking of things you should let me know, let's tie it all in together now. So that whole thing about cities is interesting because unincorporated places is this weird specific thing to Las Vegas. Most places generally are cities and then towns. It depends on the state as to how things are defined. I learned, for example, Wyoming, you can only be called a city if you have more than 4,000 people. I went to Kemmerer, which is technically a city, or Diamondville. I'm not sure which of the two. But this is, did you know, if you'll believe this, this was where the first JCPenney was found. This sounds unbelievable, like a department store founded in a small city in Wyoming, but it did. Okay, we got to stop sidetracking and finish with the story about the cities and the burger. So I lived in, I spent some time in Jersey City during the pandemic. The end of the pandemic. I mean, the end of the pandemic as far as America is concerned, at least. Anyway, so I spent some time in Jersey City, and which looks like this, by the way. Distinctly not a part of New York, even though it's closer to New York than New York, whatever, you get the point. And I wanted to go to a Red Robin. I like Red Robin because they have unlimited fries and unlimited lemonade. You just don't eat the burger, and you get free food forever. That doesn't actually work. But still, if you want to go from Jersey City to a Red Robin, which, let's be honest, we all want to do sometimes, right? So Red Robin, you find the nearest one is in... Where is that? It's in... What city actually is this? But you'll find it's way up over there. That can't have been the one I went to. That seems too far away. You know, okay, yeah, I walked for 7 hours and 43 minutes. No, it was in, like, Secaucus. I remember being, like, roughly here. Oh, yeah, it's there. There it is. I know no, that's a Wendy's. Whatever. So, basically, you have to trust me that it was somewhere over here. And so to get there, I walked from Jersey City across Hoboken, which is this size, by the way. Then I walked through Weehawken. You know, that's where Hamilton got shot, if you know your Hamilton. Then I walked through Union City, which is, again, weirdly shaped city. Weehawken and Union City, both weirdly shaped, if we're being honest with ourselves. I walked through Union City. I walked through New Durham. And then I walked into Secaucus, which was the city where... A very weird city. But this was the city where the... Yeah, it was down here. Okay, I'm going to find it. Gonna find this Red Robin. Has it gone out of business? Okay. No, wait. There it is. There we go. See, I know my way to Red Robin. And so, to go to this unlimited lemonade, it was something absurd, like an hour and a half of walking. But just to get to the closest chain restaurant, I went this way. And you notice how I went through 6 separate cities to do so. Jersey City, Hoboken, Weehawken, Union City, New Durham, and Sea Caucus. And I think that's so quirky that what is, if you walk for 2 hours in any direction from central London, you're going to be in London still. If you walk in 2 hours in any direction of New York, you're going to be in New York still. But in some states, you can walk for way less and be in way more places. I drove for 15 minutes and I went through 5 separate cities in Las Vegas because of that. And yeah, it's very interesting to me how often you cross jurisdictions, I guess, in the United States. You can drive for like 40 minutes west and be in California. You can drive 40 minutes east and be in Arizona. And is that beautiful or is that strange? All I know is that if you like beautiful, strange things, then thank you for subscribing to the channel. See, I call myself beautiful. I also call myself strange. If you're also strange, you'll be pleased to know I've just launched some new Toy Cat merch. Go to ibxtoycat.store. That's right, ibxtoycat.store, where you can get your own We Will All Die Someday mug. I think it's so cute. I love this thing so much. It's got a little heart handle. It's very cute. You're sipping it, everyone thinks like, oh, that's so motivational. And then they read it and they're like, huh. But here's the great thing about it. Every single person I showed this to before, because like, I want to make sure I'm putting good stuff out there into the world, said, whatever you do, don't make this second product. This is a dumb thing, but it's a second mug. Get this right. It's a second We Will All Die Someday mug. It's got a little heart. And this one is shaped like this. So it's very impractical to drink out of. But, hear me out here. By making this second weird mug that no one wants, and that's why they don't sell them this way, but I'm going to make them this way anyway. Look at this. Oh, isn't that cute? You can die, we can all die someday together. Or, if you can just die someday of yourself if you want. Either way, though, it's available if you want it. If you don't want it, that's a very reasonable thing. I'm just a guy on the internet trying to sell you a mug. Do you really want a mug? Probably comes from China. Oh, it does come from China. Isn't that beautiful? Do you want a mug that comes from China that tells you you're gonna die someday? You might. And if you do, ibxtoycat.store. And if you don't, then that's cool, man. Go to Red Robin. They've got unlimited lemonade. The value. You just drink the lemonade, and then they put more lemonade in, and then you drink it, and then they put more lemonade in. It has like real fruit in there. You can get your 5 a day in just with Red Robin lemonade, and that is health advice certified by Toy Cat. If you bring your own mug, they can't stop you filling it. Maybe they can. Find out. Honestly, the burger I had was so average, and the fries weren't good. I was just there for lemonade at some point. Walking 2 hours for lemonade, it's not smart for anyone's definition of the word. But you know what is smart? Saying goodbye. Thank you for watching. If you want to give me money, here is a new way you can do it. And again, I like this mug a lot. Finding stuff like this to make it happen. It was a fun process. And yeah, if you want, they come together. You buy this one, you get this one free. This is the deal of the century of Toy Cat. If you spend more than $50, you get a free Valentine's Day card. Why do you want a Valentine's Day card in June? You work that one out, man. That's not my job to tell you. Anyway, yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you all see me next time. Goodbye.